it's all about, you guys. Just listen just for a second. It's not about, I've been around and played with some of the greatest ball players that ever played the game. But it's really not about that, you guys. It's about people. It's about others. It's about, just like our guys that are over there fighting for our freedom. About laying down your life for the people that you love, you people you care about. These guys, I love these guys. I remember when Austin was just a little guy. He was short, he was smaller than you guys, and he was a little skinny guy. And he's always asking a million questions, and always wanted to stay out there after everybody was done. But what happens is when you start developing a relationship with people, you love them. You end up loving them like family. And that's why we're out here, because we care about him. It's not about whether he gets drafted or he doesn't get drafted. It's about the character and the quality of person he is. And that's why we're out here today. This is his senior project. He wanted to do a baseball camp for kids. That's a great thing. I'm just going to tell you one story. Some of you might have heard this, but it's really why I am who I am, and this is what makes you who you guys are. And every one of you guys are worth fighting for. The kids that I've worked with all my life, I left professional baseball early to work with kids because everywhere I went in our country and around the world, I saw kids crying out for help, crying out for answers. You guys are going to face more things you've ever seen in your life are going to try to attack you and destroy your life. And what I wanted to do more than anything was to save kids' lives and make a difference in their lives. And it's not easy out there, is it, you guys? Some of you guys are already experiencing that. But what we try to do is to look into every kid's eyes and say, hey, you got a destiny and a purpose. There's a plan for your life. That's why we do camps. Because not everybody gets to make it to the big leagues. Not everybody gets to do that. But you know what? Each and every one of you are gifted and special in your own way. Some of you are going to be doctors and teachers and whatever. But if you learn to make a difference in somebody's life and to love somebody and care about someone, you're going to be a success. And my guys have heard this a million times, and you guys might have heard it when I spoke at East Chatham Little League or whatever. But the reason I stand before you today is because I had a father. Maybe some of you guys don't have a father. Maybe you have father figures, but I was fortunate that my dad, I started playing. You guys ever seen that movie Sandlot? Yeah. Also want me to tell this story, but I grew up in a neighborhood. I was the 9th boy born into my neighborhood. The youngest one, they call me Little Rocky. My real name is Rock, R-O-C-K. Who would name their kid Rock? I don't know, but my dad did. And everybody always go, what's your sister's name, Pebbles? And what's your brother's name, Boulder? And my real name is Rock, R-O-C-K. And I grew up, when I was old enough to stand up in the outfield, they stuck me out there. I was in a diaper, my mom said, and I was out in the outfield. A ball would go by me, and I'd just roll it in. But out of my neighborhood, 3 guys became pros, and 5 went on to college out of the 9 that were just in my neighborhood. Some good players, but I was the youngest. When I started playing Little League, we started at 8. And my dad always had time. He pitched to us, and every time I get up, man, they never could get me out. My last game in Little League, I got up to bat, and I had 2 strikes on me. And the guy, I swung and foul tipped, and the catcher caught it. Well, what's that mean? I was out. I struck out. That's okay. I could deal with it. But when that kid struck me out on the other team, the whole game stopped, and they mobbed him like they won the World Series that they got Rocky out. We got him out, and they stopped the game. They were congratulating like they won, and we were up like 10 runs, and they still did. But what the worst thing about it was not only were they happy, but my own teammates were cheering that I got out. My own friends. What's worse was the parents of my own teammates were cheering too that I got out. I'm 8 years old. My dad used to shave my head, all my brothers, my dad, he'd shave all our heads in Arizona. In fact, one time I asked him if I could keep my sideburns, and he said, sure, and he put them in an envelope for me, and it was really awesome. But you guys don't get that, I'll tell you later. But anyway, I'm out there on the field, and my dad never sat with parents. He never sat in the stand. If he was here right now watching a game, he'd be way down there where that van is out there, just like this, watching. My dad was a Golden Gloves boxer. He played college basketball at the University of Arizona. He was all conference. He was a baseball player too. He loved us, man, and he'd stand down there like this and just watch the game. And he saw all that stuff happen. I rode my bicycle home and I went in the room. And guys, I just turned 50 years old this year. But I remember these words of my dad like they were yesterday. And my job in my life was to always tell every kid, even if he didn't have a dad like I did, how valuable and precious he is. And I'm not afraid to look at it. You can be a man and tell someone you love them and care about them and still be a tough guy. But my dad was that way. So I rode my bike home. I went in the back room and I was crying. And he lifted me up and he asked me, what are you crying about, son? And I said, Dad, I failed you. I'm sorry I embarrassed you in front of everybody. And he lifted me up, put me in his lap. He always used to make me look at him in the eyes. I hated that in high school, believe me. Most of the time I was guilty of doing something probably. But he made me look at him in the eyes. And you dads that are here, parents that are here, if you want to invest in something, you look in the eyes of your children and you make a difference in their life. And he said this to me, even to this day. My dad's still alive. He said, and I tell this story almost every day of my life. He looked at me and he said, let me tell you something, son. Let me tell you something, Rock, before you start this thing called life. He goes, I don't care if you get 4 hits in a game. He goes, I don't care if you're an All-American. He goes, I don't even care if you play pro ball. It has nothing to do with it. You hear me well, son. He said, I love you because you're my son. And to this day, his words all the way in Arizona still are out to me. He said, the only thing I ever ask you is you give 100%, you be the best you can be. And my mom was the same way. My mom would yell from the stands every day, 100%, Coyle, don't you quit! And she yells to this day. My mom just battled through breast cancer and kidney cancer, stroke. And I asked her how she was doing the other day. She goes, I'm doing good, man, I'm still fighting. You know what's funny? I went on to play pro ball, college ball, was an All-American, went on to play pro ball. All those things. And I left professional baseball to go in to work with kids in ministry because I felt a calling and also to be a father to my children. My dad called me the day I left pro ball. You know what he said to me? He said, you remember when you were a little boy, 8 years old? He said, you remember that? When I had that talk with you? And I said, yes, sir. He said, I still feel the same way today. He said, I'm proud of you in whatever you do. He said, you just give 100%. So I try to take my life and to touch other kids' lives like my dad did. And kids that didn't have a dad like me. I know what it's like it's working with kids that don't have a dad. But every one of you guys need to know that same blessing my dad put on me, I try to put it on kids all over the place. That you have a purpose, that you have value, that you have a destiny that is beyond anything you could imagine. But only give 100% and be the best you can be. That's all it's about. I love Austin Bryce. And I don't care that there's all these scouts going after him. Because even if he couldn't hit water, if he fell out of a boat, I'd still love him. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? And even if he makes it to the big leagues one day, I'm going to still call him a skillet head and call him everything, and it's not about that. I don't want something from him. I already got what I got from him. I got his friendship, and he's family to me. That's what it's all about. It's not about you guys. It's about others. You know what I'm doing at 50 years old, guys? I got 2 empty rooms. I'm a grandpa. I'm adopting a little girl from India who doesn't have a dad. And she has special needs. But you know what? I got an empty room. What do you think I'm going to tell her? Like my dad told me? You better believe it. She can be anything she wants to be, just like you guys can. You got it? So you be 100% and be the best you can be and treat others with love and respect, and you'll always be a success. You guys got that? There's nothing wrong with being a man and stepping up and telling people you care about them. Got it? Let's give it up for Austin, man, for his senior project.